Hey, kids, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. That would be me. And we are coming at you for July 31st, but really August 1st. It's a new month, although it doesn't start really till tomorrow. And the best thing I can say about the astrology of the moment is it's not July anymore. Really and truly, July was the most. I rate the months. You know, when I do my forecast for the year, which I'll be doing again next year. I always sort of rate the months as sort of heavy duty, more neutral, and light.
Mm-hmm.
And July was the heavy duty, big kahuna of a difficult month. And August is just much more manageable, a little bit less intense things going on. There's not a whole lot to talk about. There's not a whole lot going on compared to what July brought us. So I'm grateful for that. But I want to start today's podcast where I normally would answer an astrology question with a couple of announcements.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I'm actually really, really excited about this one thing. First announcement is it's August 1st tomorrow, which means it's the first Thursday of the month this week, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you want to know what I mean in more detail about how, August is a little less intense than July was and why that is, join me this Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time in my Zoom space. You guys know where to find the link for that. And if you're sitting out there and you've never joined and you don't know where to find the link, on my website, down by the blog articles, there's a blog article that's permanently sitting there that says Global Healing Meditation, and the Zoom link, which is the same every month, is in that little article. Join me. It's absolutely free. If you're on my mailing list, you get the recording actually, I send it out like 20 minutes after we finish, and then I go to bed. So join me this Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific, and I'll talk all about August. But the big news that I'm announcing today that I'm so excited about, this has been months in the making. I am opening my astrology school. It's official.
I feel like this is a hot request that people have
Well,
been
it
asking
is a hot
for.
request. I can't tell you how often I get asked, like, do you teach? Can I learn astrology from you? And I did create a class, Astrology 101, 5 or 6 years ago, and that's been out there. People have been, have become students of mine through that class. But much has changed in the last 5 years, including the fact that we live in a completely different world once the global pandemic sort of happened, and everybody's different. And one of the things that's different in my world is that the platform in the organization through which I was offering my basic Learn How to Read Your Natal Chart class doesn't exist anymore. Right? There were some people who tried to create an educational platform. I was one of their teachers. It didn't work out for them in the way that they wanted, although it got me up and running with the class 6 years ago. It became clear to me after the pandemic, when I was devoting most of my creative attention in the direction of process classes, shadow work, because that's what was juicing me. The world was changing. The work that I've been doing my whole life in the direction of self-exploration seemed the juiciest, for me personally. And so that's what I focused on in 2020 and 2021. And even into 2022, I created some new classes that year as well. But teaching astrology is sort of why I'm here, kids, and I needed to create Astrology 101 anew before I open up the astrology school for the classes that I already have recorded that are ready to be made available to people, and more advanced classes that will come. It didn't make any sense to me to start the more advanced astrology work until I had a place where any of you out there in the world who find me like the way I present astrology and how I teach, to be able to learn how to read their natal chart. Because if you can't read your chart, you can't play in the big sandbox in astrology. It starts with that. So, Astrology 101 is announcing today. The class starts in a couple of weeks, and all throughout the summer months, I'll be offering sort of 5 modules of the basics, where if astrology is brand new to you, you can learn all about the signs, all about the planets, all about the houses, all about the angles, and all about the basics of the house structure in these modules that cover all of these basics. And then there are 3 deeper modules where we really get into how the chart is read and how it works, which is really the complicated pieces of that. So if you're a total novice to astrology and you want to start with the basics, begin with the 5 basic classes that will be offered, every week or so over the summer months. If you're not a newbie, but you still don't quite know how to read the chart, but you don't need me to teach you about what each of the signs mean or what the planets represent, join me in the 3 modules that go deeply into how to work with creating, structuring, and reading the natal chart. Then once this class exists, it's there and available forever for people to use the recordings to come into my world, get excited about astrology, and do the thing you've got to do first, which is learn the basics of what a chart is, how to read it, and that opens the door for you to fall into astrology and begin using it as the profound tool that it is. So once this class is up and running, I will be focusing enormous amounts of my energy and resources to astrology classes. There are already a couple of advanced classes in the can that I've taught over the last couple of years. Those will be made available through recording, and I will begin offering different subjects and topics to deepen people's astrological knowledge and efficacy in the years to come. So here we are, kids. It's official. The announcement is going out today. The classes are available for Astrology 101 to get your seat if you want to join. And just know that if you need more advanced astrology, keep patient. It's a coming. And in the next year or 2, there will just be an explosion of what I'm offering in the direction of teaching you all how to be masterful with your use of astrology.
Is this also going to have a Facebook group or anything like that?
There already is a Facebook group for that. Yes, Astrology 101 from my students from 5-6 years ago are in a Facebook group, and people do use it to sort of interact and ask questions and deepen the community experience of learning. And I'm in there all the time. I have one of my sort of people that I mentor is also in there managing the Facebook group. And so, yes, if you come into my world and are learning astrology and you're on Facebook, there's a community opportunity there to join with others and deepen your learning by sharing what you're learning with others. So we're moving into a new month, so let's give a little lay of the land glimpse. We are in Leo season, sun's in Leo, so our conscious awareness is thinking about leadership, personal self-expression, a kind of extroverted desire to get out into the world and be more visible. Mercury and Mars, so mind and body, are both in the sign of Virgo. Mercury is exalted in Virgo. It's the place of most powerful and pristine communication. Mercury rules Gemini, but also Virgo. In Gemini, it's all just words, 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 words. And when Mercury's in Virgo, it's about the masterful putting together of words into powerful and effective communication. Mercury's going retrograde in this sign, which we'll be talking about at the end of the podcast today. But understand that in terms of the month in general and this week and the week ahead, we've got powerful, sharp, clear communication because Mercury is in Virgo. And our actions, our decision-making is equally sort of detailed and focused. Mars in Virgo helps us be specific and organized with the choices we're making, and the projects that we're working on have that detailed orientation to sort of be helpful. Both of these planets are inching towards a conjunction that doesn't happen this week, but gets a little bit, it amplifies as the week moves on. Both of these planets are trining Jupiter. Mercury trining Jupiter puts us in confidence and optimism about what we can create. Mars, of course, trining Jupiter should be pretty obvious. Mars is all about what we're doing in our bodies. Jupiter makes everything bigger and better. And when the geometry is a trine, we are uplifted and easily in a kind of powerful sense of physical flow, productivity, and accomplishment. That's certainly part of the lay of the energetic land in the week ahead. It's absolutely a great week for productivity, getting things done, and making sure that all the little details are, handled and, I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Full moon in Aquarius.
Ooh. I don't
Why,
know.
ooh?
Every time I hear Aquarius, I'm like, it's me. So I'm like,
Well, I love that.
what
So,
am I
well,
up
it's
to
your-
now?
Well, you are releasing things that don't serve you when it comes to understanding how you want to serve, how you want to lead, how you want to create, how you want to be powerfully out there in the world, taking your gifts and talents and sharing it with others. That's what we're in consideration when the sun is in Leo. Leo rules the sun. The sun is the center of our solar system. So when the sun is in the sign of Leo, we are in a position to think of ourselves as the sun at the center of everything that orbits around us. So when the moon is in the opposite sign, Aquarius, Aquarius isn't interested in the self at all. Aquarius invented the community. In Leo, we discovered where we as individuals light up. But you can't stop there. You can't just stop with I know what lights me up. That's the grandiosity and arrogance and narcissism of Leo. That's what the shadow of Leo is I'm full of self. So much so that you are less relevant in the Leo dynamic. And this is on purpose. Like I remember, everything has to be honored in the world of archetypes, and we must honor self-importance. I am leader, follow me, because I have gifts and talents to share. So this is a full moon to let go of anything that is too self-focused, that inhibits you from understanding that you can have all the gifts and talents and cash and prizes you can, muster and maybe deserve. But if you're not sharing your gifts in service to the community, then you're not contributing to a community that works. So it's a full moon of what's good for me versus what's good for the community. And in the spirit of full moons being a moment of gratitude and harvesting and recognizing what we've already created, we want to start with that. Start with a gratitude for who you're being in the world right now, what you know about your personal sense of gifts and talents and abilities, and make sure that you're owning your magnificence, right? That's what Leo asks of us. Leo says, know who you are and honor that, love that, respect your personal gifts. And then in the release portion of every full moon is we get to look at what self-focused out of balanceness, that's a terrible sentence. But you get what I mean, that any way that your focus on self is keeping you out of balance with community, you got to let that shit go.
Okay.
Listen, you're an Aquarius sun, right? So that's why you go, ooh, Aquarius full moon is about me. I'm a Leo sun. I know a lot about what it is to know my gifts and talents, but also understand that if I know that too much, I'm in a myopic, self-focused, narcissistic, grandiose wound of Leo. So this is, my full moon to recognize where I'm using my gifts and talents to serve. And if there's anything in the way of that, we let that shit go. Remember that Pluto is still holding this T-square with the nodes of the moon that peaked last week. This is not a short kind of transit that hit on a Tuesday. This is something that marks the entire summer here, winter down under, then can also be considered to be reflecting things that are happening all year long. And as I've tried to convey, this is also the peak of a moment that is generational, where stuff we've been moving through in the last decade and stuff we'll be moving through in the next decade will show this moment as a peak of deep change and transformation, where we are in great conflict with the past and great conflict with the future we're trying to create.
Mm-hmm.
So if I talked about this collectively more last week and hearken to turn on the news if you want to know what I'm talking about, in a full moon in Aquarius, now we're going to talk about it at the personal level, because the moon and Pluto are fairly close together. So that means that the transformative power of Pluto to help us release things is using this full moment to have us let go of past patterns and habits that don't serve us in order to cultivate new ones that do. Mercury will be in an exact opposition to Saturn when the full moon is exact. I love this because Mercury in Virgo is clear, precise, doesn't miss a trick. If anything, the shadow of Mercury in Virgo would be focusing too much on the details that you get lost in the details, but you're never going to be in delusion or denial when, Mercury is in Virgo. And the opposition to the great teacher is exact. It's an exact 90-degree tension, where now the teacher's in the room. Saturn is very present in this moment, helping us tap into the Saturn inside of each of us. So Saturn up there in the solar system relates to the wisest part of all of you who are listening to me right now, and everybody else too. So with our mind planet and the great teacher holding this dynamic tension of opposites, that's going to give us the objectivity we might need to really identify for ourselves what needs to be released and let go of at this time without holding back, even if that's hard to do or there's something mighty that you're pushing through. Because Mercury opposing Saturn sort of gives us it's an uncomfortable transit because all oppositions are tense, but the value of it is being serious and responsible with what we're perceiving at this moment. And I think this will be helpful in terms of finding unconscious patterns that want to be released at this time. Of course, Venus is retrograde, so that means that our emotional bodies are giving us wisdom and information from below the surface, and that might make this an interesting full moon moment if our heart centers are more connected to what's below the surface. What's happening above the surface gets to have a little bit of that information delivered to us. In other words, we can be more aware of the unconscious patterning behind our feelings when the planet that rules our feelings is moving backwards. And just in case you want another little zinger to add to how this full moon's going to play out, there is a loose trine being held between Uranus, the great awakener, and Pluto, the great transformer. So if Pluto allows for death and rebirth to occur, and Uranus speeds everything up and makes things happen fast and suddenly and in unexpected ways, there could be some very unexpected pivots, changes, disappearances, or reappearances. Venus is retrograde, so there's a lot of shit going on in our relational life, including exes knocking on the door or the impulse to reach out to an ex, relationships that start or end. And since this is an Aquarius full moon, the ruler of this full moon is Uranus. Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. So both the sign of Aquarius and the planet of Uranus indicate sudden, unexpected, out of nowhere. Anything can happen and probably will. And since the Great Awakener, who rules this full moon, is loosely working with the planet of death, rebirth, and deep transformation, part of what some of us will experience as we move through this full moon tomorrow is unexpected changes that come out of nowhere. Resilience will be necessary, and just trust whatever gets taken away at this time is serving your ability to know your gifts and talents in the Leo sensibility, but understand what has to be released in order for you to serve the community more powerfully. Have at it. So the juicy bits of the week are absolutely front-loaded to the beginning. As the week progresses, we'll get to enjoy what I talked about at the top of the podcast, that Mercury, Mars, trining Jupiter creates some focus on productivity and getting things done. But we start the week out with the full moon is tomorrow, and then 2 days later, on Thursday, Mercury starts his shadow. Now, this is actually, I shouldn't say that the juicy things are front-loaded, because the full moon is very juicy, and it's tomorrow, and so it's front-loaded into the week. Mercury entering his shadow is not a transit. It's not going to make anybody cranky or bump into the furniture. But it's really important, y'all, that you know that from August 3rd through the 23rd of August, Mercury is in his retrograde shadow, moving direct, but crossing the degree points that he's going to be backtracking over when he turns around on August 23rd. So on Thursday, August 3rd, Mercury will be at 8 degrees of Virgo, and between now and the 23rd, he will move to 21 degrees of Virgo. So that means 8 to 21 are the degree points that Mercury is traveling when he goes backwards. If you have any planets in your chart, this is why you got to learn how to read your chart, kids. If you have any planets at 8 to 21 degrees, then Mercury in his retrograde motion is making contact with those planets. And this is how you take knowing that Mercury is retrograde and make it a much deeper, more advanced astrological consideration when you understand how it's working in your personal chart. Shameless plug number 3 over. So begin paying attention to all matters of communication that look like they're reflecting some sort of breakdown, lesson, delay, problem. We don't have to worry so much about when communication goes well because, we're not using Mercury's retrograde to pat ourselves on the back. We're using Mercury's retrograde to notice where we have some learning to do. And fortunately, all retrograde cycles have this first act. I like to call it the brochure. Right? On August 23rd through September 15th, we're in a process, and the brochure that describes the process is the 3 weeks from August 3rd to August 23rd. Pay attention this week and the next 2 weeks to all matters from the neck up that look like challenges. That is, the issues that are being reflected in those challenges are likely to be themes you will be working with late August and September when the planet of communication is turning around. I will, of course, say much more about this when we're actually in the process and these triple transits come up. But the essence of this Mercury retrograde is ultimately a healing. You all know how much I love that 150-degree angle, the great eliminator angle that allows us to let something go and move in a new direction in a way that is subtle, in the manner that we tend to grow. Yes, we have big numinous moments where we revolutionarily change. But most growth is done in increments where we learn a little and we let something go. We learn a little and we try something new. We learn a little and we no longer operate with a pattern. We learn a little bit and we create a new pattern for ourselves. And that quality of learning a bit and shifting a bit is driven by the 150-degree angle. And Mercury in conjuncting Chiron means that we are going to be able to release challenging communication habits and patterns that come from wound. A trine from Mercury to Jupiter will give us the confidence and the openness to allow some of the healing to take place. Again, I'll be saying much more about this when it's upon us. But in the meantime, starting Thursday, pay attention to everything from the neck up so that you have a deeper, richer, more powerful experience of the retrograde when it arrives in late August. Meanwhile, have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. This week, we have an email and dream from April. April says, these last few nights, it's been a dream palooza, and they are all amazing, but I would love to submit this one for interpretation. Great. There are 3 of us standing on a glass floor in the universe, like a glass platform just out in space, but we can see universe after universe, and it's infinite. We are chatting and joking with each other. I know both people very well. They are young men, and I'm unsure if I am a man or a woman, but I'm pretty certain that I'm one of the boys. All 3 of us have these cubes. The cubes are like Rubik's cubes, but much larger, say half the size of our bodies. Each cube is displaying different people on each square, and those people filter into other people, like a rolling video. Each square is its own set of people, so no one on any square is on a different one. I know this wording is a lot of square. So,
a lot of squares. I'm following you, though. Rubik's Cube, each square has segregated consciousness, people, individuals that don't repeat. Correct. They're not on other squares.
Okay. So she continues. We huddle together like a pep talk at a sports game. While we are strategizing, our cubes launch off the platform and hover. We all hug and laugh. We each run and jump off the platform, our cubes leading in front of us. There was a distinct feeling of having made an agreement to meet back on the platform later. Now I'm floating on what looks like Earth. As I look around, I see my friends also heading in, but definitely headed towards different destinations. I'm so excited, and I feel they are excited as well. And then I wake up. Have a fabulous day.
Oh, my God. Wait, did you say she had a fabulous day after that, or she's wishing us to have a fabulous day? Well, thank you, April. I will receive that fabulous day wish, and this is a fabulous dream, so First of all, I want to speak into synchronicity for just a second because, people, listen, kids, if you're out there and working with synchronicities by, noticing that it's, 1, 2, 3 on the clock, or you saw 4, 4, 4 again, it's like, kids, up the game a little bit. Synchronicities are way more powerful than just the numbers. Numbers are easy. We see them first. But synchronicities are everywhere, and like overwhelmingly everywhere. And it's one of the juicy ways to live in a body is to be in perception of them, because it's the evidence that we have that there's more going on here than that which we can see. And it's just interesting to me that this really is a dream on some level about infinity and soul groups. And I literally just spent the last 2 days working through a documentary on infinity on Netflix. So I've literally been thinking about infinity for a couple of days. And then April shows us a dream while I've been marinating on this concept that has some representation of the infinite nature of souls incarnating. Not really technically infinite, because ultimately there's a finiteness to this. The earth will go away. That's not infinite. People will die forever. That's not infinite. But in a perception of the infinite nature, one of the ways that we can vibe with the idea of infinite consciousness is that we incarnate in bodies, and that there are thoughts about this, that we travel in soul groups, that these groups of souls that are related to each other might also inhabit bodies at the same time, or sometimes we're in bodies and parts of our soul group are not embodied but are guides and assistants. Like, this is all this woo-woo stuff that I vibe with in my own life, but as a teacher, I sort of stay on the fence between science and mysticism. So I always feel like I've taken a dive into the deep end when I start talking about things like soul groups. But this is what this dream reminds me of, right? So, we're in three. We're in the beautiful sense of three. I don't mean that this dream tells me that April is in a soul group of only three, where she is one. She's in a group of three in this dream because it is a number in numerology that is about the divine nature of consciousness. That when two energies get together, they create a transcendent third. So anytime you see three in a dream, we are in that transcendent third creation, mother, father, God, parents create a child, artist, canvas, painting, powerful divine number when we're in the consideration of three. I love this image of being sort of in the universe, but not in the universe, like on a glass floor. Where do we use glass floors? When we want to look at something that we can't actually get to. So a glass floor that's very high up allows us to be out and about and have a view down into the canyon below. A glass floor on a boat allows you to have access to that which you cannot see below the surface of water. So same thing here. The glass floor allows April and her two compatriots to be like not quite in the universe, but above it and looking down at it from a perspective of witness. And the sense is it's infinite. So right there, if the dream was just that, that would be a juicy image of the profound notion that there's this dimension beyond the third dimension that we live in, where we also somehow have some existence and consciousness. And then we get to this, we're chatting, we're joking, I know both of them well. So right there tells me soul group. Right? She's out of the universe, she's sort of perched on a glass floor. So that tells us we're in some kind of numinous space. And if she's with people, and I'm deciding that this is her soul group, that know each other well, and there's a joking, laughing sensibility, that is sort of what speaks to me about a group of people or souls or whatever, beings in this dream that relate to each other. They have a relating because, or rather, we know that they have a relating because we're watching them, or April is, sharing with us that they that she knows them both well. They're chatting.
I like that, like, she doesn't really have a gender either. It adds to that, like,
love
non-worldly, infinite time and space vibe.
Exactly. Like, we haven't even gotten yet to the part of the dream where this becomes an important distinction, because it will when we get to the Rubik's Cube section of the dream. But you're absolutely right. When April is having the perception that they are male gendered, but she doesn't know whether she's male or female gendered, it's more evidence of this notion that gender is something about being in a body and here in three-dimensional Earth, and that our soulful selves have no gender. So that was also a juicy evidence for me that we're in a soul group dream expression. You know, in this documentary about infinity, I'm never going to be able to convey this well, but I'll do my best. At one point in the documentary, they're showing a visual image to convey that the universe might be spherical. And when they show you this image of the sphere, it's a sphere or circular shape that's made up of these flat planes, kind of like a Rubik's Cube is flat, planed, and square, but has a malleability and a movability that suggests something spherical. I may literally have just given half of you little aneurysms trying to follow my image, but please don't cut this out, Zoe. It may be partly because I watched this documentary over the last 2 days that I'm seeing the Rubik's Cube as reflecting this sense of the soul group connected because it's part of the same thing. The cube exists as a thing, and therefore any of the individual squares on the cube are absolutely a collective. They connect, they relate, but yet separately. In other words, she said that, maybe I'm paraphrasing into this, the idea is that nobody could appear on more than one square in the cube at the same time. So somehow that also gives me a sense of souls that in the other dimension that are grouped together and hang about can't enter this dimension except in these structured, separate-bodied ways that we do on Earth. So the cubes for me are kind of about bodies, three-dimensional life, the way we go from a formlessness in soul place to having to enter the land of form, which is where our bodies are. So the squares and the cube are like, you're going to go into a body and be all square for a little while, but then we're going to come back here in soulful place where we're just going to, be connected and free and multidimensional, and then we go into bodies in the cube, and then we come back, and then we go into the bodies through the cube, and then we come back.
From our past lives.
That's the story that the dream tells me. They hug and laugh, and they make an agreement to meet again. How many times have you either talked about the idea of past lives or heard other people talk about it as if there's a sense that we join with others in our lives, that we know each other as a soul group outside of life and consciousness? That's certainly a trope. Right, that's a trope that's, described. None of us know what this past life thing is. Like, we can have lots of theories and religions based on it, but it's still a mystery. But this dream, to me, is giving April, and by virtue, through April, us, a kind of image of one way to perceive the idea that we go into bodies and come out of bodies. And when we're out of bodies, we connect with others in a soulful way. And then we have to split out from that yummy connected energy into a hard, square-shaped body experience we call life on Earth. And if we're fortunate enough to have a beautiful soul group, we know that we're going to connect with them again when we leave our bodies and prepare to come back in another form.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list. to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list. It's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com.